What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 44. What's good? Episode 44 of Sicko Sports Podcast. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. January 7th. Why am I dressed like I was in a blizzard? It's fucking cold outside. Winter is here in Texas. I dropped my son off this morning. Right now, it is currently 8 a.m. I dropped my son off just about 30 minutes ago. Dropped him off at school. I check the weather every single time we're about to leave. Obviously, I need to know how to dress him. I need to make sure I don't walk outside freezing cold. I don't like to run back in and grab jackets and shit. I don't do that, dude. We're prepared. But I check the weather. It says 50-something degrees, 50 degrees, right? On the money, 50. Cool, no problem. Not a big deal, right? We throw on light sweaters. We're good to go. Dude, it was not fucking 50 degrees outside, all right? Yesterday, Wednesday, it was colder on the app. It was colder on the fucking weather app. We went outside, wasn't that cold. Today, it's supposed to be warmer. We go outside, freezing balls. Even my son's like, Dad, it's cold today. Freezing, winter's here. And I don't want to sound too complaining. Now, what was the actual temperature outside? I don't know. Felt like it was somewhere in the 30-ish, high 30s maybe. And I know, listen, I have friends in Chicago, in Wisconsin, in New York. They were sending me pictures of 1 degrees, negative something temperature, so I don't want to sound like that big of a complainer. I don't want to sound like that much of a bitch where I'm complaining about high 30 degrees where people are out here in 1 degrees negative temps out here. I don't want to sound like that big of a complainer. But it was cold, dude. So that's why I got the beanie, I got a sweater, I'm out here. I'm wearing it all. I'm nice and I'm cozy, I'm warm now. This feels fucking great, by the way. Well, it's been a good week. I hope you guys had a good week. I went to go watch Sing 2. No update on that. Here's the update. It's a fucking great movie. If you haven't seen Sing 2, if you have a little one, go watch it. Or if you're one of the weirdos that like to watch shit on your own, if you're just somebody who likes to watch Disney movies as a grown adult, hey, don't, says it. To me, says you got daddy issues. But no need to worry. If you're a grown adult and you like to watch Disney movies on your own, Sing 2 is a good one. If you have a child, if you have a kid, please watch Sing 2. It is good. We saw it in theaters. It was a freaking awesome movie. Really good music. Good little storyline. I like seeing the first one. I like seeing 2 as well. They're both good. So go watch that. And also, yes, if you do like cartoons as an adult, you're weird. Anybody who watches adult cartoons is weird, dude. I don't like it. I don't like Family Guy. I don't like South Park. Any of that like made for adults, but it's a cartoon. It's fucking weird. If it's a cartoon, it's for kids, dude. Kids watch cartoons. So when you make an adult cartoon, I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm not into it. Now, if you're an adult and you watch cartoons because it gives you some nostalgia, like you go back and watch Dragon Ball Z or SpongeBob or whatever, that's on you. I don't like those either. But if you're someone that likes those because it brings back memories of when you were 10, 9 years old, cool. I can respect that a little bit. But I don't want to watch animated characters doing adult stuff. Just give me an adult movie or show at that point. But anyway, it is Friday, so you guys know what that means. Football Fridays, heavy on the NFL because this week is the last week of the regular season for a bunch of teams. That's it. That is it for them. They are looking forward to the draft, looking forward to the offseason, and trying to give their fan base some optimism going towards the next season. And for a lot of other teams, 14 teams to be specific, life goes on. There's more games to be played. There's more football to be played. But some of them need some things to happen. I'm going to recap a little bit about last week, games that we saw, things that we saw happen. Antonio Brown, more updates on him. I'll go over what the NFL update is. Obviously, NFL update is every Friday. I will cover all of the tweets, all of the news, injury reports, all that good stuff, and then jump forward to this weekend's games, what we have to look forward to, who's in, who's out, who needs what to happen, who needs who to lose, tie, and all that good stuff. So that's coming up towards the end of the show as well. So first things first, let's get straight into it. Last week, Patriots clobber Jacksonville. Mac Jones, 227, 3 touchdowns. Patriots look like they might have found their groove. They look like they might be back into the rhythm that they were. I know there were some struggles. People were talking about Mac Jones and, hey, he may not be the guy. We don't really trust him. And again, how much do you trust a rookie in the playoffs? It's hard, man. It is hard. When you get to the playoffs, it's one thing to say, we have a rookie that we can win 9, 10, 11 games within a regular season. That in itself is very difficult. But of those 9 or 10 wins, how many of them are against playoff teams? 2, 3? Maybe if you have a really tough schedule, 4. So when you go into the playoffs, every single one of them is a tough game. To have to win 3, 4 games in the playoffs for a rookie to do, where it's tough team after tough team after tough team, that's a big ask. Even Dak Prescott, 2016, rookie year, him and Zeke, number 1 seed, to ask them to go into the playoffs and go far as a rookie is difficult to do. You're playing against good teams, high level, top caliber teams week after week in the playoffs. So for Mac Jones, this is the perfect time. This is the time to find that groove again. It looked like he hit that rookie wall a little bit. If he can get back on track, do what Mac Jones looked like he was doing for a while. If he can come back and that offense can look like it's back to being ignited, they have the run game. Their defense can get after the quarterback. J.C. Jackson and them boys can create turnovers. But Mac Jones, in order for this team to go far, he has to put on these type of performances. 150, 180, 1 touchdown. Those type of stats, those type of numbers are not going to work come playoff time against these really good teams. Mac Jones is going to have to, because they don't have that dominant defense. New England's defense is always going to be good because Bill Belichick is never going to let them. Belichick's never going to let them be terrible on defense, but they don't have the defense, some defenses that they used to have, where you don't need your quarterback to do much. You can win games by just protecting the ball and running the ball. They can't do that. They don't have that type of defense. So Mac Jones is going to have really good performances. And of course, if you're going to win continuously, if you're going to move on in the playoffs, you have to have good performances week after week after week. You have to string together multiple weeks of good performances. Let's see if Mac Jones can do it. He's a rookie. I'm not putting too much on him, but this was a good get-right game. This was a good game to get back to what you're doing, to get back to what you were doing until you lost a couple games. So really good job for Mac Jones. Great job for the Patriots going into the playoffs. Rams, Ravens, another win for the Rams, and that's what you want to do. I talked about it before. You can't look too heavy into wins and losses. You can't look too detailed into exactly how it happened. Now, yes, it matters. It matters how you win. It matters how you lose. But for the Rams, a win is a win, and as long as they can stay on top, I think it is very important for them to be able to play at home. They want to get that home game. They want to not drop a game so Arizona doesn't take their place and they have to play on the road in that first playoff game. So a big win for the Rams, but a game where they struggled again. It looked tough. 20-19 win. They almost, some say they should have lost to Baltimore. Maybe if Lamar Jackson's there, things look a little different for Baltimore, but the Rams lose that game. Matthew Stafford throws two interceptions in the first half. It's looking bad. The offense is looking stale as shit. Things just do not look good for the Rams, especially on the offensive side of things. Second half, though, Matthew Stafford gets it together, throws 2 touchdowns, finishes the game with 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. They ended up pulling it out, winning the game. So at the end of the day, as long as the Rams keep winning, again, as long as you can stay on a win streak. I said this last week when I was talking about Dallas going into Arizona, Dallas playing Arizona. I said as long as you can keep the win streak alive, no one cares how you win, as long as you could keep winning, because the team builds confidence in wins. Yes, they build confidence when they have a flawless victory, a great performance, of course. But as long as you're winning, that's more important than anything. Winning builds that confidence, and you need that confidence going into the playoffs. So when I looked at a team like the Rams, how are they going to win this game? They find a way. Didn't look good. Still some things I'm sure they want to try to clean up. They have a really big game coming up. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But this was a win that the Rams still needed to get. And regardless of how they looked, they got the win. At the end of the day, they got the win. But Matthew Stafford and those boys have got to play better if they want to go far into the playoffs, for sure. And who's to say they won't? Buccaneers win over the Jets. Tom Brady, game-winning touchdown. Antonio Brown, we knew what happened with him. I did cover it on Monday a little bit. Antonio Brown goes off the rails. People calling him crazy. Big stories coming out from Antonio Brown. I'll get into that a little bit later as well. But tough win. Another team where how much confidence do we have in Tampa Bay moving forward? Mike Evans is banged up. No more Antonio Brown. No Chris Godwin. Leonard Fournette has missed a few games here and there. Their defense is still down a few men. I don't know how we gain confidence in Tampa Bay. I don't know how we do it. For Tampa Bay, a team that plays against the Jets, yes, they're on the road, but you expect them, especially, I said it last week, I said, I expect them for this to be a get-right game, for this to be a let's build momentum, let's build this offense into what it can be and put up points, put up big numbers against the Jets, go out, pummel them at home, get a big win, and get in the groove, get in the rhythm you want to get to moving forward into the playoffs, and they didn't do it. They struggled. They needed a very old school, signature Tom Brady, late game, late winning touchdown. They needed that in order to finally put the Jets away in that game, a game where they were down semi-big, but they were down early, and it looked like the Jets were playing really good football. Like, oh, man, they might beat the Buccaneers here. They ended up pulling it out. Again, a win is a win, but how much confidence are you getting? If you're a fan of Tampa Bay, how optimistic are you that you're going to be able to go into the playoffs, especially with all the injuries and all the guys out, and get it done? If anything, this is shaping up for a Tom Brady Super Bowl again. If anything, I've been watching Madden Arena. Madden the Arena is phenomenal. If you don't have ESPN Plus, you're missing out. If you do have ESPN Plus and you haven't been watching Madden the Arena, slap yourself. Slap yourself hard. It is a phenomenal documentary. It goes through Tom Brady's Super Bowl victories. It goes through all of them. All of the Super Bowls, not just the victories, because it covers the losses as well. But I just saw the last one with the Falcons, and the next one is with the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. But I just saw the one with the Falcons. It was awesome. It's a great documentary. But watching that doc, watching everything that Tom Brady is, what he does, how he goes through his daily routine and each season and the ups and downs and how many times people have counted him out. Skip Bayless, since 2006, said Tom Brady was done and he'll never get another Super Bowl. This was happening since 2006. They were saying Tom Brady is not, they don't have the team. He's not what people thinks he is. He doesn't have this mystique. He's not Tom Brady anymore. 2006, they were saying this. Fast forward 14 years, 15 years later. Dude's still out here contending for Super Bowl, still won a Super Bowl last year. So when I look at this team and I say all these things that have happened, all that has transpired in the Bucs season this year with all the injuries and Antonio Brown situation, all of that happening, wouldn't this be the perfect storm? Isn't this shaping up to be the perfect season for Tom Brady to somehow, some way be the GOAT that he is, be the absolute king of the mountain, and find a way to win in the playoffs, find a way to win a back-to-back Super Bowls? This is shaping up to be, this is typical Tom Brady. This is typical Tom Brady-ish season where things don't look great. People try to overanalyze the 12-win, 13-win season, and then he goes out there and plays his best games, or the team ends up playing their best in the playoffs and they somehow find a way to a Super Bowl again. But you're basically judging the Buccaneers based off of Tom Brady's past. Tom Brady has been so good in the past that we feel like we have to give him credit. We have to give him the benefit of the doubt because we've seen him do this so many times. We have to give him the benefit of the doubt and think that he's going to be there at the end. But if you just look at the games, if you look at the injuries, who's missing on that team, who's playing through injuries, it's hard to get any confidence. It's hard to feel like they're going to be there at the end. We had the Bengals with a huge win over Kansas City. They were in Cincinnati, but Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, there's something about a pairing of a quarterback and a receiver. Everybody's so focused on trying to implement this run game, getting these running backs, doing all these things, having multiple receivers. We see these teams and we want a tight end and a 2 receivers, 3 receivers. Dallas with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. I wish Michael Gallup was still healthy, but all of those things, these deep cores, but these teams, their offenses that are continuing to click, especially now late in the season, it's this one-on-one, this 1v1 matchup basically, or 2v1, right? Quarterback, receiver against the corner. It's just this pairing, this connection, this chemistry that a great quarterback and a great receiver have together that makes all the difference. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow have it. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams have it. I talk about, so when you see somebody like Amari Cooper come out and talk about why am I not getting the ball, I need to do it. I think that's what he's seeing. He's seeing these guys and saying, man, our offense would benefit if we just find ways to get me the ball, not to sound greedy, not to sound selfish. But at the end of the day, you look at the offense that are clicking, they don't have 3,000-4,000 yard receivers. They have one dude who's shredding it. They have one guy who the quarterback can just trust nonstop every third down, every tight situation, every time they need a big play. You know where they're going, but they're just that much better. They're just that much better that they just give them the opportunity. Jamar Chase in that game had 2 catches where, why are we even throwing that ball? He's not open, but it's one-on-one coverage. And as long as it's one-on-one coverage, I know where I can throw this ball. I have the chemistry and the timing, and I have this camaraderie with him. I have this understanding with my guy where he knows where I'm going to try to place this ball on tight man-to-man coverage. He knows where I'm going to give him an opportunity, and I trust that he's going to come up with it. At the very least, it's going to be a safe incompletion. Jamar Chase came up with 2 huge catches in that game. Ridiculous catches in that game. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are great. And if Cincinnati's defense can play a little bit more like they were playing in the second half, the first half of that game, Cincinnati looked like they were about to get dog walked. They were about to get steamrolled. Patrick Mahomes and his offense were firing on all cylinders, moving the ball nonstop. Cincinnati couldn't do anything with it early. Kansas City capitalized on every single punt, turnover. Everything was going Kansas City's way. It looked like it was about to be a blowout. It was 14-0 early. I think it was 21-7 at one point. That second half is more of what the Cincinnati's defense needs to be. I talked about New England and these other teams where Mac Jones and these guys have to get it together. The Rams, the Cowboys, all these teams that have to get their offense together. For Cincinnati, they just have to have their defense play 4 quarters the way they play 2. It seems like every week Cincinnati's defense is great for 2 quarters. They'll implode for 1 or 2, but they're great for 2 quarters. If they could just string together, if they could put together 4 quarters of good defense, it doesn't have to be great. With Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase, with Joe Mixon, and the way that this offensive line isn't getting enough credit because on paper they don't seem like world beaters. But the way the offensive line has been protecting Joe Burrow is the most sacked quarterback. But as of late, they've been doing a good job getting holes for Joe Mixon, allowing him to do his thing. How is this offensive line doing great? If Joe Burrow sacked more than any other quarterback, Joe Burrow just hold on to the ball a little bit. That connection with Jamar Chase, sometimes he gets into some trouble because he's waiting for Jamar Chase to get open. He's waiting for something to materialize. It takes a while. But when they need it, when they're down late in games and they need to protect Joe Burrow, they do a pretty good job. When they need to create lanes early in the game for Joe Mixon, they do a pretty good job. Not the best offensive line, obviously, but this offense is explosive enough to where it's hard to imagine them, especially in the AFC, what defense are they going to run into where they can't score up into the high 20s? Mid to high 20s at the very least. So if the defense could just put together 4 full quarters, they can beat anybody. They truly can beat anybody. I mean, they just beat the Chiefs. Obviously, playing in Arrowhead Stadium in a playoff game would be much different. Joe Burrow's never been to the playoffs, but he's big in big moments. You know, that national championship game was a playoff game. He's been in big moments. I don't think the moment will be too big for Joe Burrow. You see the swag on Joe Burrow? You see the swag? You see the dancing he was doing after the game? When they clinched the playoff spot, when they clinched the division, he's in the locker room, cigar in again, swag dancing. Like, the moments are not too big for Joe Burrow. Joey B doesn't let moments get too big for him. Never that. Moving on, Tennessee destroy Miami. RIP Miami. 7 straight victories. Everything was looking up. If they beat Tennessee, they're sitting pretty. This is their first big test against a Tennessee team who, again, a lot of injuries on Tennessee. You know how I feel about Mike Vrabel. You know how I feel about Mike Vrabel, baby. But all the injuries, everything that Tennessee's been going through, they're still a good team. They're still a legit playoff team with or without Derrick Henry, with or without healthy Julio Jones or A.J. Brown, with or without all the guys that they've lost throughout the season, with or without them, they just play like a playoff team. They are a winning team. They are a playoff team, and this was going to be Miami's first real test. Crazy to think that you could go on a 7-win streak and not have a real test yet, but that's where Miami was. They played against a lot of really, really bad teams. They played against a few teams that had a lot of big injuries that they just could not afford. They play against a Tennessee team who has been through all the ups and downs, who have been a legit playoff team, and they got smashed. They got absolutely smashed in that game. Tennessee destroys Miami, probably ends Miami's season. You can't lose 7 games. You can't start the season 1-7 and expect to make the playoffs. You just can't do it. The magic, the 7-game wins, the 7 straight wins, that was beautiful. That was awesome. It gave the fans something to hope for, but once again, it's that hope that kills you. You get 7 straight wins. You're feeling good about yourself. Here's Tennessee. This is basically our season. The tragic start to the season, but the magical second half of the season. And it all boils down to this game against Tennessee. And it wasn't even close. Embarrassing loss for Miami. And it just proves they're just not a playoff team. They're just not there yet. Tua and these boys still need a lot of help. Jalen Waddle's really good. Jalen Waddle's really good. Tua's not as bad as people think, but there's a lot of things that need to happen in Miami's favor. That defense looks great at times and looks troublesome at times. That offense, unless you can put together a better offensive line and run the ball, make things easier for Tua off of play action, that offense looks really bad at times. And when you mix those two things in, when you have an inconsistent defense with an inconsistent offense, or an offense that struggles, how do you expect to make the playoffs? Indianapolis Colts. How do you come off the big wins they came off of? Beating Arizona, beating New England. They're getting these huge, massive wins. They beat Las Vegas. If they can beat the Raiders, they lock it in. They stamp their ticket to the playoffs, and they blow it. They get a lucky touchdown. Carson Wentz throws a damn Shane Falco touchdown to give them the lead. You think the Colts are going to pull this off. They're going to win. Derek Carr, Hunter Renfrow come back, get in. They end up winning the game. It looked like they won the game of a touchdown. They called it back, but they were still, that puts them into field goal range. They could field goal, they win. Raiders over the Colts. Colts now have to fight for their lives. Now all of a sudden they go into the last game of the season against Jacksonville with their season on the line. Not what the Colts planned for. Again, another team, you can't start 1-5. You can't start 1-5, man. You have to come out of the gate strong. There were so much adjustments. I think Frank Reich just kind of looked at this team and what he wanted to do with Carson Wentz and what he believed Carson Wentz was, I think changed through the season, especially that first part, that first course when he got kind of hurt and he was not, when you started realizing like, damn, Carson Wentz will never be that guy again. That time in Philly, you can see it when he moves, when he runs, you can see he's lost a step. He's slower. He's not that type of gambler and can make all these crazy plays anymore. It happens. 6 years into the league, it's going to happen. Dak doesn't run the way he did his rookie year. It's going to happen. You're not going to move the same way. Unless you really, really work on it, or unless you have no injuries, which he's had a lot of them. When you have that many injuries with that much mileage on 6 years into the league, you're going to get a little slower. You're going to be a little less dynamic and explosive. You're just going to. So you have to rely on pre-snap stuff. You have to get better at the line of scrimmage, and that's something that Carson Wentz is still struggling with, and it's something that I don't think Frank Reich expected. That offense looked more explosive in the passing game with Phillip Rivers than it does with Carson Wentz. But we saw Carson Wentz have a really good showing against Arizona. He had to make plays. He had to throw touchdown passes, and he did it. He did it. So it gives you that confidence. Okay, Carson Wentz, this is what we expected. This is what Frank Reich wanted from the beginning. I think that's what got him into trouble. It took them a while to realize, oh, we're a running team. Oh, we have to run the ball over 30 times a game to be successful. Once they figured it out, things started looking great. And then in the game where you did run the ball, they stuck with the run, but it wasn't explosive enough. They needed Carson Wentz just to make a few plays. He was able to do it in that game. So you have all this confidence, and once again, Indy's the team. Indy's the team. Have a chance to stamp their ticket. They lose to the Raiders. Raiders are still alive, but a tough loss for the Colts. They couldn't drop that one. Now they have to win to get into the playoffs. Game that didn't really matter much. Seattle, Detroit didn't really matter too much. Doesn't do any. I mean, when I say it didn't matter too much, it doesn't matter at all, right? And both teams are eliminated. The Lions probably best for their franchise if they lose more. You don't want them stringing together wins and lowering your draft pick if they have that opportunity to take whoever they feel is the top guy or the second best guy in the league. That's where they should go. Winning games at this point doesn't help the franchise. It kind of hurts them. But you still want a winning culture. You still want to try to go out there and win. And they are. They're trying to win these games. They're not tanking. But for Russell Wilson, it was interesting because Russell Wilson, again, all the talk, all of the Pete Carroll, maybe we have to start from scratch. Maybe we have to start this whole thing over. Russell Wilson, the trade rumors before the season, during the beginning of the season, where is Russell Wilson going to be? Are they going to trade him? Talks about maybe it's not working out. Maybe he wants to leave the franchise. Maybe the franchise doesn't want him anymore. You expect Russell Wilson there's going to be trade conversations, whether he'll stay in Seattle or not, we don't know. But we know for a fact they're going to listen to trades. We know for a fact they're going to entertain a trade for Russell Wilson. And boy, did he put on a nice little resume builder. Did he have a game to show teams, if you want to trade for me, this is why you want to trade for me. 4 touchdowns. They put up 50 points against the Lions. Russell Wilson was going bananas. Rashad Penny, don't forget about Rashad Penny. He had a monstrous game. He allowed Russ to do his thing and cook and get all those touchdowns as well. But if Russell Wilson can end the season on this high note, if he can go out and win the last game of the season and look really good, it could bring some... I mean, kind of. In all honesty, you know who Russell Wilson is. You know what he brings to the table at this point. You don't need the last 2 games of the season to see if he still got it because he looked real rocky at some points this season. You don't need that. You know what Russell Wilson is. You know what he can do. But I'm interested to see where he goes. It's going to be fascinating to see the Russell Wilson sweepstakes along with the Aaron Rodgers. Usually we have a guy. Usually you have one guy. When Matthew Stafford was on the block. Who's going to land Matthew Stafford? Where is he going to go? It's very rare that we have 3 quarterbacks that are easily top 10 quarterbacks, if not top 5 quarterbacks. We might have 3 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league all available, all with rumors about being on another team. Deshaun Watson's out of Houston. That's for damn sure. That's for damn sure. He ain't going to be in Houston next season. I hope Deshaun Watson's good. Tough situation, tricky situation. I'm not saying that no matter if he's guilty of the accused or not, I hope he plays and I hope all that blows over. No, if he's guilty, obviously people have to pay for crimes. But if he did not commit any crimes, then I hope he does play. And you know it's not going to be in Houston. So that is going to be a sweepstakes of itself. Also, Russell Wilson, if they are hearing trades, if they are listening to teams about what they can offer, what are teams going to be willing to offer? What team's going to risk selling the farm to get Russell Wilson? Aaron Rodgers, who's the best player in the league, who is the league MVP. For some reason, I just don't think it's going to happen. We saw Aaron Rodgers go crazy not too long ago. Just the other day, Aaron Rodgers had to fire back at somebody who went after him. Stupid comments. Aaron Rodgers had comments saying he's a bad person. He's a bad person? Aaron Rodgers is a bad guy? We have to be careful about what we say, man. We have to have some accountability, especially if you're a reporter. You are a professional. You're getting paid to do these things. You can't just come out and say, this dude's a bad guy. What crimes has he committed? What has he done that makes him a bad human being? Who has he hurt? Who has he affected? What nasty, ugly things have he done? Whether you agree or disagree, whether you think he's dumb, is irrelevant. The dude's the MVP of the league, and he should win that award. I hope that we can keep our personal opinions about somebody's ideas, about somebody's beliefs out of football, out of award voting. That means nothing. The MVP of the league is if you don't want to vote him Walter Payton Man of the Year, cool. But MVP should be the best player of the season, and that has clearly been Aaron Rodgers. I think the vaccine thing, all of that's going to play a count. I've been telling you guys, the NFL isn't going to let him win this award. I've been saying it, and then now as we get closer to the league's end, we see it come up. Now we're seeing people come out and talk. Now we're seeing reporters that are actually working. It's not just fans. It's not fans at home that don't mean nothing. It's reporters that are getting paid, professionals to talk about this, that are bringing this up and saying Aaron Rodgers can't do it because he's selfish and greedy and a bad guy. I'm just saying, man, they're not going to let him do it. They're not going to let him win, which is a damn shame because they just locked up the number 1 seed. He went out there, they destroyed Minnesota, him and Davante Adams. Oh my gosh, how difficult is that going to be? How difficult is it going to be for somebody to go into Lambeau and beat him and Davante Adams? That duo, I mean, you can go, you look at the Tom Brady's and Randy Moss, you look at all the great duos, the Peyton Mannings and Marvin Harrison, every great duo that has existed in this world. Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams are right there. I wish they had more years where we can see this over a stretch of 6-7 full seasons. But they're right there. The way those two are playing right now, you can see the whole... Do you remember go back to The Last Dance? Right when they started the season, they posted the picture of The Last Dance. And it was that cryptic message, and everyone was saying this means that this is going to be the last season for both Rodgers and Davante Adams in Green Bay, or at least they think the last season together. I would love to see both of them go to a team next season. Wouldn't it be great if Aaron Rodgers was out of Green Bay and he's like, hey, no matter where I go, Davante Adams is going to come with me. You talking about a sweepstakes. Whew, your offense changes. Any bad offense in the league becomes a great offense by adding Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams to it. Imagine if you had an offense that isn't that bad and all of a sudden they add Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Whew. So unfortunate for him, but they still won. They still end up with the number 1 seed. Everything goes through Lambeau. And like I said, at this point, when I talk about confidence, when I talk about optimism, when I say how much do you really believe in your team into the playoffs, if you're a Green Bay fan, you might be the only team in the NFC. You might be the only team in the NFC that is very confident going into the playoffs. You love how your team is playing. Yeah, they had a few close ones against the Bears and it hasn't been perfect, but you haven't lost. You haven't lost in a hot minute, and the offense still looks good. Their bad days are teams' good days. There's a few times where it's like, oh, our offense gets stale, and they kind of sputter out at times. They fucking had 27 points. What do you want? That's buttering out. That's a bad offense. 20-something points. I see teams get held to 6. That's a fucking bad offense. So because of that, you should be very optimistic if you're a Green Bay fan going into the playoffs. This is the best team in football by far in terms of how they've looked and how their season has looked. By far the best team. The only team you really have that confidence in is Green Bay. Team that you're not so confident about. 2 teams that you weren't so confident about. I don't know if you're confident after this game either in the Cardinals and the Cowboys. This was kind of Cardinals-Cowboys last 6 weeks, all in a nutshell. Cowboys can't win against a winning team. They can't beat a playoff team in the crunch time, and the Cardinals still try to find ways to lose. Even when they look good, they're trying to find ways to lose games, it seems like. Neither team you should have confidence in. When you look at that offense of Arizona without DeAndre Hopkins, it is night and day. If their run game can't go, they need Kyler Murray to use his legs just as much as he uses his arm. There's so much on Kyler Murray right now. Yeah, they're going to get James Conner back. I don't know if that completely changes your offense, though. DeAndre Hopkins completely changes your offense. But when you look at that team, I don't know. I don't know how you have confidence in Arizona. They avoid 4 games in a row, but they've only won 1 in the last 4. How much confidence do you have in them? I don't know, man. And for the Dallas Cowboys, even worse. Even worse for Dallas, right? We're waiting. Everybody keeps talking about how Dallas can't beat the winning teams. They play against a Cardinals team who's coming off of multiple losses, back-to-back losses in a row. Here we go. You beat the Cardinals. Yes, they haven't been playing good, but at least they are a winning team. At least that stat line of you can't beat winning teams this season, at least that changes. At least that stat line changes with the win over Arizona. And we just come out so slow. Dallas comes out so freaking slow again. That Kellen Moore offense, I've been saying it. If anybody wants Kellen Moore to take over and be the head coach of your football team, good luck to you. You can have him. You can have him. He's yours. Kellen Moore is not a head coach in the NFL, and I'm sorry. I don't want to shit on him. I don't want to blame. I don't want to put all the blame on him. Everybody deserves blame. Our offensive line deserves blame. Dak deserves some blame. Our running backs have been not healthy, and when they are healthy, Zeke has not looked great. Again, he has a big old knee brace. I don't even know if he should have been playing the last few weeks. Tony Pollard's coming off of this injury. He's still trying to get right. Hopefully he gets more healthy over the next 2 weeks. CeeDee Lamb is one of the worst receivers in terms of most drops. Amari Cooper can't get the ball. He's wondering, what the hell do I have to do to get the ball around here? Michael Gallup's out. So there's a lot of blame. The defense at times looks great, at times looks terrible. There's a lot of blame to go around, but Kellen Moore has not been great. Especially over the last 6-7 weeks, he has not been good at all. It looks like teams have figured out Kellen Moore in that system, which is Jason Garrett's system. Let's call it what it is. This is Jason Garrett's offense. It still looks very similar. And I just don't know. I don't have confidence in Kellen Moore's ability to call a good game. I don't have confidence in his ability to game plan and scheme for something that's going to take us deep into the playoffs. Dak isn't a top 5 quarterback. He doesn't need to be. You shouldn't need to be. What you're telling me is that 27 teams every year should just not try because they don't have a top 5 quarterback? That's what we're saying? That if you don't have a top 5 quarterback, what's the point of playing? You don't need a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. You don't need that. Yes, if you have it, it's a luxury. Yes, if you have Patrick Mahomes, if you have Aaron Rodgers, yes, you feel great about your chances. It makes things that much easier for an offensive play caller. It makes things that much easier for your coaching staff. Yes, for sure. But as long as you don't have one of those bottom 10 guys, you should still be able to do your job, especially given the weapons of Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Ezekiel Elliott, and Tony Pollard. You should be able to fucking figure it out. And Kellen Moore isn't figuring it out. Rant over. Let's get into some updates around the league. Let's get into some news, get into these tweets before we get into where teams stand heading into the last week of the season. So time for some NFL update. First one, Adam Schefter. Steelers placed Deontay Johnson and Kendrick Green on the reserve COVID-19 list. That is tough because the Steelers do have to win their next game. The Steelers still have a chance, slightly, but we're telling you there's a chance, Pittsburgh. So without Deontay Johnson, without their starting center, it makes things that much tougher. It sucks for Pittsburgh. I would love for Big Ben to get into the playoffs. They need a lot to happen. Winning isn't enough for them. They need a lot more to happen. But it would be so fucking awesome if Big Ben could go into the playoffs. This team could rally around him and see something happen. Ian Rappaport has also tweeted, the Titans have designated Derrick Henry to return, clearing his way to practice today. The King is back. I talked about the Titans and what Mike Vrabel has been able to do. Mike Vrabel's job this season is just keep them afloat. Just keep your head above water. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, they come in. We're excited. We think this season's going to be an explosive offense for the first time with a head coach who's a defensive-minded guy. His defense is never going to be garbage. We know that. So if you add in Julio Jones to A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, all of a sudden, Ryan Tannehill becomes a little more familiar. He gets a little more comfortable, and now we can add some firepower to this offense. All the high hopes in the world and all the injuries. Julio Jones and A.J. Brown haven't been healthy together all season. Derrick Henry has missed a huge chunk of the season. Throughout the season, every single other week, we feel like now's the time. Now is the time. Okay, this one is what's going to do it for them. All the injuries that they faced. When Derrick Henry went down, okay, now the Titans are going to falter. Now the Titans are going to start losing games. Mike Vrabel's job all year has been just keep your head above water. And he's done more than that. He's kept them and put them as the number one team in the AFC currently. If the season ended today, which for the eternity of time, it would have been already over. But if the season ended today, or as long as they can win the last game of the season, they are the number one seed with a bye and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Congrats to Mike Vrabel. If that's not coach of the year, no. If Mike Vrabel isn't coach of the year, get rid of the award. Get rid of that shit. Mike Vrabel easily, hands down. LaFleur, cool. Congrats. You deserve flowers. You had a great year. All the other, there's a bunch of guys that deserve it. For sure. A bunch of guys that deserve it. But Mike Vrabel, he's the coach of the year. To deal with everything he's dealt with this year. And they rank somewhere in the top 5 in terms of strength of schedule with all the injuries with no Derrick Henry, and somehow you're still the number one team in the AFC. Derrick Henry's back, and I think he's going to get some run. They should be smart enough to give him some run. I don't think he's going to go out there and get 30 carries, but give him some run, loosen him up a little bit, get him ready for next year. If he comes into that game and has a couple big runs, watch out, because this is what they've been waiting for. Just keep your head above water until we can get some guys back. Not only did they keep their head above water, they've climbed to the top of the AFC. They didn't climb to the fucking top of the AFC. They climbed to the top of the AFC. Also, Ian Rappaport reports on the Eagles-Dallas game. Micah Parsons, Ian, isn't the only high-profile Cowboys player to land on the COVID-19 list, per me and Mike Garofalo. Tyron Smith tested positive as well. There's also now more reports. Anthony Brown, Trayvon Diggs. Quite a bit of guys are going to be out for that Dallas-Philly game. Not sure. Haven't seen whether or not Dak is going to play. I saw Ezekiel Elliott come out personally and say he's going to play in this game. I assume that relationship, I can just guess that Dak's going to want to play. He's going to want to get the offense, especially the last game. You don't want to finish your last regular season game the way they did against the Cardinals. I would expect these guys to want to finish off the season, look put together, string together good drives, string together touchdowns against the Eagles, and go into the playoffs with a little more confidence in your offense. The Eagles also have some guys out as well, so it's going to be interesting because this game doesn't really matter too much for both. Dallas can't slide out of the fourth position. The Eagles can't slide into home field at all. Doesn't really matter to any one of these teams. This game's almost irrelevant, but it is interesting because what you still want to win. It's still a divisional game, and if you're Dallas and you win, at least you can move back up to the second seed. If the Rams lose to the Niners, which is a possibility, and if the Buccaneers lose their last game, all of a sudden the Cowboys would climb back from 4-2, and you get to play 2 home playoff games instead of 1. So still something to play for. Something small, but something. So I'm interested to see if they play. I know a lot of people are going to be upset. My dad's going to call me immediately if they decide not to play Dak and just go bananas. 2 days ago, he was like, what is this bullshit they're talking about? They might not play Dak. They might not play starters. And I agree. I agree with him. We have to see this team look better. We have to see this offense put together some drives, get some confidence going into the playoffs. But they've done it. They've done it. It was the issue. They had issues, and then they go out and destroy Atlanta. They have issues, and then go hang up a bunch of points against Washington. They've always had these games where they look better, and then they don't look better again the next game. Where they drop this is dips throughout the season with this offense. So even playing against Philly and having if they play against Philly, and let's say they score somewhere in the 30s and the offense looks good again, it doesn't give me confidence that they're going to be this super high-powered, high-scoring team in the postseason either. They are who they are. You should know now by week 18 what you are. And what we know is that Dallas's offense is inconsistent. We know that. We know that Kellen Moore has a hard time. We know that. That's not going to change because of the last game of the season. Another tweet from Pat McAfee. Shout out Pat McAfee. Ian Rappaport retweeted it. Technically, it's from Ian Rappaport. It was Ian Rappaport on the Pat McAfee show, but said, Pat McAfee tweeted, but this is from Ian Rappaport. On Wednesday, Antonio Brown went to the team and asked them to guarantee $1 million of his incentives, and they said no. He was upset heading into Sunday. So Antonio Brown, whole issue. I was hurt. They wanted me to play. I told them I was hurt. They knew about my injuries. I told them that it was painful. I told them I couldn't go. Bruce Arians, apparently, according to Antonio Brown, told him to go in the game. Antonio Brown said, I'm hurt. I can't right now. He said, if you can't go in, then get out the field, leave. According to Antonio Brown, Bruce Arians denies this. But that's what led to Antonio Brown being frustrated. There was issues. Now you see his lawyer, his representative come out and say that the Buccaneers and Bruce Arians specifically were aware of his injury, that he has to get surgery in this offseason, but that Bruce Arians did not care and told him he had to play. The list goes on and on. Now we see that he asked for a guaranteed $1 million of his incentives. He had a bunch of incentives. He wanted $1 million of it guaranteed. They said no, which why the fuck would they say yes to that? That doesn't make any sense. Why would we guarantee an incentive? That's the whole point of the incentive being in there. And guess what, Antonio Brown? The reason you didn't get an incentive is because you lied about being vaccinated and you got suspended for it. Antonio Brown could have been back 2 games ago and got his incentives by playing on the fucking field. So no, dude, you can't have your incentive. That's the whole point of the incentive being there. Is it unfair? Do you feel like it's unfair? Okay. Who did it to you? That's my issue with Antonio Brown. Who did it to you? It's this victim, this place that we live in victimizing everybody. Antonio Brown's not a victim here. Who did it to you, Antonio Brown? Who forced you to have a fake vaccine? Who forced you to fake it? Who forced you into a wrongful suspension? Nobody's doing anything to you. Sometimes when you continuously force yourself to be, and then he goes and gets the vaccine. It'd be one thing if it's like, hey, he fucked up, he really didn't want to get it, and this is what he did, and he messed up, and he's still not going to get vaccinated, but he went and got the vaccine anyway. So now you're just being a pain in the ass to be a pain in the ass. You just want to move left when people are moving right. You like to be the black sheep of the herd. So nobody's doing it to you. You're not a victim. The world is not conspiring against you. The reason why it feels like it is because you continue to self-sabotage. This is a mental illness that Antonio Brown is dealing with. He needs professional psychiatric help to stop the self-sabotage and stop from feeling like the world is conspiring against him, because it's not. You could have gotten your incentives if not suspended. Plain and simple, so they don't owe you shit. And at the end of the day, guess what? You're still getting paid pretty decently. And you still have an opportunity to get playoff bonuses. You still have an opportunity to get to a Super Bowl and get another bonus. You still have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl and get another bonus. And guess what? If you win a Super Bowl and have another Super Bowl catch like you had last season, commercials come, everything comes. There's so many things Antonio Brown can do to get the hell out of his own way, and he refuses to do it. So no, I don't have any fucking sympathy for Antonio Brown. Sorry, the sympathy has then passed. I had it for you at some point. It is past. No sympathy, no incentives. No team's going to pick him. I keep saying the Packers should get him. This team should get him. Oh, Michael Gallup went down. Maybe Dallas should. Nobody should get Antonio Brown. What Antonio Brown should get is help. That's what he needs. Now, with all of this being said, it doesn't mean that I want Antonio Brown to fail. I don't want him to struggle. I want him to do good. But this is an Antonio Brown thing. This isn't a Buccaneers thing. This isn't an NFL thing, a way they treat players. This is an Antonio Brown issue. And he needs to help himself, and he needs to stop feeling like the world is working against him. Moving on, Ian Rappaport from NFL Now. With his future up in the air, Vikings coach Mike Zimmer is proud of what he's done. If a change is made, someone would inherit a very solid situation. I agree. I agree that if Mike Zimmer does get fired, that would be a very sought-after job. I do agree. A Jim Caldwell, perhaps. But they need some help on the offensive side. Kirk Cousins can't have a head coach. And listen, I love Mike Zimmer. I love Mike Zimmer for what he is. But sometimes it's okay for a coordinator to just be a coordinator. It's okay for that to happen. We have this weird notion that if you're a good coordinator, you have to be a coach. And if you're not a good head coach, then you weren't ever really good. You can be a good coordinator and be a lousy head coach, and that's fine. Not saying Mike Zimmer is a lousy head coach. He's not lousy. But when there was reports and stuff being said of maybe 6-7 weeks ago about Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer finally sitting down and talking about the game plan and talking about what they want to do, that was troublesome. That was bad news. To know that Mike Zimmer doesn't have a lot of say and he doesn't have these detailed meetings with Kirk Cousins, and I get it. He's not an offensive guy. He's not an offensive coordinator. Okay. Neither was Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick came up as a defensive guy and a special teams guy. He was never an offensive guru, but you don't need to be. What Bill Belichick did, we saw it in highlights. We saw it in film. We saw these parts in documentaries where Bill Belichick would have Tom Brady, and it would just be the two of them. And they would sit down, and Bill Belichick, what he would do as a defensive guy is just break down the opposing team's defense. This is what they're doing. This is what I see them doing. What do you think, Tom? And Tom would, hey, let's do this. If we run this type of route combination, maybe we can take advantage of these spots or take advantage of the over-aggressiveness of this guy, Ed Reed, in specific for the clip I'm talking about if you guys haven't seen it. Zimmer needs to be doing the same thing. To say that Zimmer and Kirk Cousins don't meet one-on-one and talk about the game plan and talk about what they're going to do, that it's just all up to the offensive coordinator, you can't have it. You can't. That's not a head coach. I'm sorry. He's a great defensive coordinator. I think he has had his legs come out from under him on the defensive side of things. They've lost a lot of good defensive players. They don't really have a great defense. They lose their best pass rushers this season. It's tough. Their defense, when you look at them on paper, especially with the injuries that they suffered this year, is tough. And his defense hasn't been piss poor either. But it's a situation with Mike Zimmer that's, again, is he lousy? Is he a terrible head coach? No, not at all. But you can't have this long stretch of mediocrity. You can't be this mediocre for this long. At some point, you have to feel like you can get into a Super Bowl. You keep your job by getting in the playoffs. You keep your job by getting a playoff win. When you fail to meet the playoffs, after this many years, and you take a step back from a season, you can't expect anything else. I don't know. I haven't heard. Again, Mike Zimmer doesn't know if he's going to stay around or not. It's up to Minnesota. But if Mike Zimmer gets fired, I can't blame them how long. It's the same thing with Jason Garrett and the Cowboys and some of these other coaches where it's like, how long? It's what happened with Mike Tomlin now. That's why people are talking about Mike Tomlin. How long until we get back to the point? The only difference with Mike Tomlin is he's won a Super Bowl. He's been to multiple AFC championships. When was Mike Tomlin's last AFC championship? 2017, something like that? 16, 17, around there. So it hasn't been that long before Mike Tomlin was in a big game like that. So for Mike Zimmer, when you don't have those credentials, where you don't have that to lean on, people don't give you the benefit of the doubt, and you have a step back this season and fail to make the playoffs, where a team like the Eagles and the Saints still have a chance. The Eagles just made the playoffs, and the Saints have a chance to make the playoffs. The Saints, if you're the Vikings, that game against Detroit, like I said, not only cost their season, it might cost Mike Zimmer his job. Sucks for Zimmer. I do think he's good, but I can't blame Minnesota if they fire him. I would love Jim Caldwell in that situation, though. Then he gets to stick it to the Lions. Ooh, I would love Caldwell there. And lastly, from Jennifer Lee Chan, this was retweeted by Adam Schefter. For the third day in a row, Jimmy Garoppolo threw a football. A lot of them, actually, he looked accurate, blah, blah, blah. I don't need you to tell me how accurate Jimmy Garoppolo has been. But what that means is Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play. He has to play. Their season's on the line. They're playing against a really tough team, a really, really tough defense in the Rams. I don't think you want to go into that game with Trey Lance and leave the season on the line to a rookie quarterback who has only played in 2 games this season. Jimmy G's got to go. Even if he's not 100%, he's going to go. This is their playoff game. The playoffs start today for the 49ers. And that is a massive game that's going to shake up and shape the finished playoff matchups in the NFC. And with that being said, let's go ahead and look ahead and finish off this episode with the AFC, NFC playoff matchups, playoff standings, and where everybody's at right now. We'll start with the AFC. Tennessee currently at number 1, Kansas City 2, Cincinnati 3, Buffalo 4. Those are the 4 division winners as of now. Buffalo can still fall out. Tennessee, Kansas City, Cincinnati have all clinched their divisions. Buffalo can fall out with a loss and a New England win. All of a sudden, New England would be the home team in that situation, and Buffalo would be on the road, which is important because at this point, right now, when you look at it, Buffalo and New England would play each other at that 4 and 5 spot. So if they're both 4 and 5, yeah, I'm sure New England would like to be at home instead of on the road at Buffalo, and the same thing goes for Buffalo. So they still have a very important matchup here at the end of the season, both of those teams, because it is not clinched. You want to play at home for the first playoff game at the very least. Indy at 6, they still have an opportunity to be out of the playoffs. They have not clinched. They have not gotten a playoff berth. Neither have the Los Angeles Chargers, but that's a 6 and 7 seed as of today. Teams that are on the bubble, the Las Vegas Raiders, Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens are all still alive. Obviously, one needing more than the other. The Raiders just need to beat the Chargers. So I talked about the Chargers. How do they fall out? Simple. They play against the Raiders. The Raiders win, they're in. The Chargers win, they're in. This is the playoffs. This is a playoff game. Let's not get it twisted. This isn't a regular season game for these teams. They win, they move on and play next week. They lose, that's it. Season's over. This is a playoff game for both the Chargers and the Raiders. What a story if Derek Carr and Rich Bisaccia can make it into the playoffs. What a freaking story. And please let it happen. I'm sorry to Herbert. I'm sorry to the Chargers fans. I apologize. I don't want to shit on your team. I don't want your team to fail. But just for the storyline, I want the Raiders to win. I want Derek Carr to get his fucking flowers, man. Give Derek Carr his credit. If Derek Carr is able to beat the Chargers, the Raiders are in the playoffs. That's nuts to me. Steelers still have a chance. What do the Steelers need? Well, they need Indy to lose to Jacksonville, and they need to beat Baltimore. Steelers and Ravens play the last game of the season. I mentioned that they were on the bubble. That's why they play each other. So Steelers need Indy to lose and for them to beat Baltimore. Even if they beat Baltimore and Indy beats Jacksonville, which you gotta beat Jacksonville. It would be a catastrophic ending to your season if you lose to Jacksonville, and that's how you get knocked out of the playoffs. They can still make the playoffs, though, if they lose to Jacksonville, and that's by Baltimore beating Pittsburgh. If Baltimore beats Pittsburgh and they lose to Jacksonville, they can still be in the playoffs. They can still get knocked out, but they can still be in, and I'll explain that here with what the Ravens need. The Ravens need to beat Pittsburgh, obviously. Like I mentioned, they need Indy to lose as well, but they also need the Chargers to lose and Miami to lose. So there's a lot going into it for Baltimore. They need a lot to happen, but if all those things happen, Baltimore would be in, Indy would be out. It would be catastrophic. Indy's just got to win. You can't lose to Jacksonville, man. You can't let all those things happen. The Ravens, again, so much that you need to happen. There's still a chance, but there's so much that I just don't expect Baltimore to be able to make the playoffs at this point. The Raiders, all's in their hand. The Steelers, unfortunately, they need Indy to drop a game. And then to the NFC, I already mentioned the Packers clinched number 1 seed. They will be at home throughout the playoffs. The Rams win the division. Right now, they're currently in the 2nd spot. They're the number 2 seed, and they win the division by winning the last game of the season against the Niners. So as long as they beat the Niners, they are the number 2 seed. They get a few playoff home games. The Buccaneers at 3, Cowboys at 4. Those can still flip. If Bucs lose and the Cowboys beat Philly, they flip. If the Rams lose to the Niners and the Bucs lose, then the Cowboys would need to win to jump all the way from 4 to 2. A lot of things happening there, but ultimately that's the 4 division winners. All those 4 teams, 3 of those 4 teams have already clinched their division. The Rams are the only ones up in the air. Then to round out that wild card spots, the Cardinals at 5, Niners at 6, Eagles at 7. Cardinals win the division if they win and the Rams lose to the Niners. So even if the Rams lose to the Niners, but the Cardinals also lose, the Rams will still win the division. The Cardinals win the division if they win and the Rams lose to San Francisco. The 49ers, they are in with a win over the Rams, or if the Saints lose. The Saints are the only team on the bubble in the NFC. 6 spots are already set. 6 spots are already granted to the NFC. Who's the last spot? The Philadelphia Eagles. They have clinched. They have not clinched a division, but they have gotten a playoff berth. They are in the playoffs as well. The only teams that can flip are the Niners and the Saints. The Saints need to beat Atlanta, and they need the Niners to lose to the Rams. Now, when I say that, you're probably thinking to yourself, holy shit, the Saints could beat Atlanta, and the Rams are a tough game, especially considering that the Rams need a win in order to win the division. That's a tough game for San Francisco, and it is. The freaking New Orleans Saints, I talked about Mike Vrabel. Oh my God, what has Sean Payton been through? And he some way, somehow, if they win and the Niners lose, the Saints, Sean Payton, Taysom Hill, whoever the fuck is playing quarterback for them, will be in the playoffs. That's why you can't blame Minnesota for firing Mike Zimmer. You're telling me Sean Payton had to play with Ian fucking Book, Taysom Hill, and Trevor Siemian throughout the season, and he still has a chance to get to the playoffs, but Kirk Cousins, who's had a pretty good year with Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook and all, we don't have no fucking chance. That's why you can't be too hard on the Minnesota Vikings organization if they decide to move on from Mike Zimmer, because how the hell do you let the Saints have an opportunity to make the playoffs while we're sitting at home watching the shit? Other good matchups for the rest of the week. I talked about those key matchups on teams that are going to shape it. The big games, Rams, Niners, the Cardinals is a big game. And obviously the Raiders and the Chargers. Raiders, Chargers, Rams, Niners, those are probably the 2 biggest games this going into the weekend. Those are the primetime games, if I'm not mistaken, for obvious reasons. Other notable games, though, Chiefs, Broncos. Chiefs obviously want to still be able to come out with a win, want to head into Denver. That way they can keep that 2 seed at the very least and just have a little more confidence after coming off of a loss to Cincinnati. I can't imagine that they're going to just rest dudes and not play anybody. You want to come into the playoffs off of a win. You don't want to enter the playoffs off of 2 losses. And they don't have those 2 game buys in the playoffs, so they still need to win there. Dallas, Philly, like I said, there's still something to be played for in terms of Dallas if they have those other 2 teams win. But for Dallas, the same thing. Do you feel good? If you rest your players, if you rest Dak and them, do you feel good enough for what you've done for this season to go into the playoffs with 2 straight losses? Are you that confident in your team to go into the playoffs on 2 straight losses? So that one's notable just to see how they play. Titans, Texans, same thing. The Texans lock up the number 1 seed. They can still drop. They can still fall out if they lose to the Texans. And you have Kansas City or Cincinnati both win their game. So they just need to beat Houston in order to lock up the division. We've seen Houston spoil shit for people. When Davis Mills is out here doing some weird shit, you never know how that goes. But that's a notable game because if they win, they are the number 1 team in the AFC. Jets, Bills, again, also very interesting game because if the Buffalo Bills lose to the Jets and New England wins, then the Bills would have to travel to New England in the playoffs, and they don't want to do that. So big game for the Bills. The Bills have to beat the Jets to make sure that they stay at home for the first round, for that wild card round of the playoffs. And then lastly, Patriots, Dolphins for the same obvious reasons. If the Patriots lose, then they have to travel in that wild card game, or if they win and the Bills lose, they get to play at home for the first game of the playoffs. But that's it. That's everything we have to look forward to this weekend. It's going to be wild, wacky shit going on. I'm hyped for it. The regular season comes to an end for a few of these teams. I said the playoffs are basically this weekend for a few of these teams because it's win and continue, lose, and that's it. But for the rest of them, if you're a fan of any of these other teams, look forward to the offseason. Look forward to what's to come. But that is a wrap on the season for any team that I did not mention there, and I'm sorry. Better luck next time. Look forward to the draft. Look forward to the offseason for you guys. And that's it for the episode, man. Thank you guys again for being here. As always, I will see you again on Monday. We'll recap some of what happened, a little bit of it. I'll probably talk about those 2 games or so, but then we'll hit heavy on an MMA Mondays coming up. We'll go heavy deep dive because the MMA UFC is back with the free fight night. We'll jump into that card, talk about what's going on, see where Dana and White Jake Paul are, see what's going on in the boxing world as well. Some stuff going on with Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, who he has a huge pay-per-view coming up as well. We'll jump into that Monday. I'll see you guys then. Enjoy the weekend. If you got a team in the playoffs, I'm rooting for you, man. I don't want to see anyone disappointed. See you guys on Monday. Peace.